So I did something a little different here on the channel. I did a season preview series where I looked at every team across the Ontario Hockey League and also included a channel vote. So subscribers and visitors of the channel had a chance to vote on how they saw each team and where would they finish by the end of the 25-26 season. And then going over the numbers over the weekend, now that we've finished the series doing the previews, I wanted to see how did the channel vote, you know, what's the predictions like for each conference for the OHL West and the East based on the channel vote? And there were a few surprises and some that were kind of expected. So I'm going to go 10 through 1 starting in the Western Conference. And this is all based on the results of the channel vote. So based on the votes, they expect the Guelph Storm to finish 10th in the Western Conference standings. I was a little surprised by this because I kind of see the Guelph Storm as being a team that might challenge for a playoff spot this year, although the West is going to be a lot more competitive than what we saw a year ago. Ninth, even more surprising, the Sarnia Sting. I see the Sarnia Sting as being a team that's going to be maybe pushing for a mid spot in the Western Conference standings. They could be pushing for home ice advantage come playoff time. I almost wonder if the vote was a recency bias. A lot of people seeing that the Sting have missed the playoffs for the last two seasons, so kind of gave them the downvote of being at the bottom of the conference standings between 7th and 10th. But based on the numbers, the channel has them finishing ninth in the Western Conference standings. Making the playoffs would be the Flint Firebirds. This is a team that I'm wondering, have they done enough to maybe battle for a playoff spot? But the channel here is expecting them to finish eighth in the Western Conference. Seventh, they have the Owen Sound Attack. Owen Sound and Sarnia are two teams I'm very curious about. I feel as though these are two teams ready to make that next step. But off of recent results, Owen Sound, they've had issues making it out of the first round of the playoffs and have found themselves in the bottom half of the standings in recent years, despite having a pretty solid core that just kind of fell apart in the later stretches. So right now, the channel vote having the Owen Sound Attack finishing seventh, which, like I said, kind of surprised by that. Finishing sixth would be the Erie Otters based on the channel vote. And Erie is a team that's had a lot of key pieces move on. The big question is, will Matthew Schaefer be back in the Ontario Hockey League, or will he stick around with the New York Islanders after being selected first overall in the 2025 NHL entry draft? I think the Erie Otters are a team that might be vulnerable in the standings, but there's some optimism when it comes to the channel vote. So I thought that was fascinating. Fifth would be the Saginaw Spirit. A lot of question marks with this team in regards to Michael Misa and Zane Parekh. Many don't see them as returning, but there's always that what if. What if they come back? What happens with the Spirit here? Who have really done well, getting the draft cupboard well stocked after the trade deadline last year. So the Saginaw Spirit, yes, I could see them as a middle of the pack team, and the channel also seeing them as maybe a team that's going to finish fifth in the Western Conference. This one surprised me a little bit. The Sioux Greyhounds coming in at number 4. Sault Ste. Marie should be better than what we saw last year, but a lot of optimism in the channel vote with the Greyhounds as they were seen as a team that maybe they'll finish middle of the pack. A lot of people figuring somewhere between 4th and 6th, and we also saw a good percentage also saying that maybe they finish in the top 3 in the Western Conference standings. Finishing third, according to the channel vote, will be the London Knights. No surprise here, as the London Knights, of course, have gone to 3 straight OHL championships. They've won back-to-back J. Ross Robertson Cup trophies, and they're coming off their Memorial Cup championship run last season in Rimouski. Now, they have a lot of players who've moved on through graduation. They're going to have plenty of new faces in the lineup, but the London Knights have a history of being competitive year in and year out. Although seeing them now finish first in the Midwest Division is a little different from what we've seen in recent history, and the channel expecting them to finish in the top 3 again this season. Now that leaves the Windsor Spitfires, who will finish second according to the channel vote. The Windsor Spitfires, to me, they're a team that is ready to go. They finished top in the West Division by a good margin of points last season, and I feel as though that momentum will carry over into this season. Not a lot of question marks with this team. It's just who's coming back from last year's squad. And there's been already a lot of speculation that they're going to be big buyers here early in the regular season, depending on who returns from NHL camp. So the Spitfires, a team to keep an eye on, and a good percentage of channel subscribers and those who tune in expect the Spitfires to be number 2, or at least number 1 in the West Division. And then number 1 in the West, according to the channel vote, it's expected that the Kitchener Rangers will finish first in the West. Now, Kitchener, they had an 85% vote for finishing top 3 in the Western Conference. That was the most dominant vote out of all 20 teams in the Ontario Hockey League to finish in the top 3. So the Kitchener Rangers, seen as a big favorite from the West. Remember, they're looking to bid on the 2027 Memorial Cup. They're one of the 2 finalists against the Guelph Storm. So if they win the bid, how much of a contender are they for this year? Because you got to figure they'll want to put in more of an effort to bring in top-end talent for next season. So that vote result will come in at the end of November, early December. But still, with the way this roster is, and then you've got UC Ahokas behind the bench, the Rangers are setting up for a pretty big season here. And we'll see if they'll meet those expectations once the regular season gets underway in 2 weeks' time. Now, shifting our focus to the Eastern Conference, I was a little surprised by this, but the channel vote has the Sudbury Wolves finishing 10th, and they actually had the most votes when it came to finishing in the bottom of the standings. 65% voted for the Sudbury Wolves to finish in the between 7th and 10th. I almost wonder if it's a reputation with the Sudbury Wolves. Remember, they went all out last year at the trade deadline to bring in Henry Muse, and that plan kind of went sideways with Henry Muse now going off to the NCAA. So for Sudbury, they do have pieces, I think, that'll make them competitive. I don't think they'll be a team missing the playoffs this year, but according to the channel vote, you guys expect them to finish 10th in the Eastern Conference. Finishing 9th, you have the Brampton Steelheads. And for Brampton, they have had such a long summer, losing the likes of Luke Misa, Porter Martone, Jack Ivankovic. They've traded away Karmiris, Van Volsen. The list goes on of departures from this Brampton Steelheads team. But seeing them in the preseason, they've got some players here that show no signs of quitting. Gabe Sherratt comes to mind as one of those players that is doing everything he can in the preseason to show that this Steelheads team will not be pushovers during the 25-26 regular season. But I do see where the channel vote is coming with all the departures, and they have them missing the playoffs this year, finishing in 9th. 8th in the channel vote, the Peterborough Petes. They've missed the playoffs for the last 2 seasons since they won the 2023 OHL championship. This is a team that has been building through the draft. They've got a lot of young talent. I personally expect Peterborough to be a team that might be a little higher in the standings than 8th, but for fans of the maroon and white, I think seeing playoff hockey this season would be a huge boost in confidence for this team as they continue this rebuild. But the channel right now having them finishing 8th. Finishing 7th, according to the channel vote, we have the Ottawa 67s. They missed the playoffs last year, and a lot of people, I saw quite a bit voting for this team to finish either 4th or 6th, and there's an optimistic crew that also voted for them to finish top 3. So the 67s, they got a boost on those votes, so they finished 7th, but have they done enough to be a playoff team? We'll have to wait and see, but the channel has confidence that the Barber Poles will be back in the postseason. This one surprised me a bit. The Niagara Ice Dogs, 6th in the Eastern Conference based on the channel vote. Niagara is seen as having a very lethal offense with the likes of Kevin He, Ryan Robrick, and Brady Wasselin, and then now Riley Patterson. The questions have been, how's the defense going to shape up? How about the goaltending? And there's also, of course, been the off-ice drama these last few seasons. So I'm wondering if maybe those factors resulted in votes having them lower in the standings, not top 3. I still think Niagara is going to be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference, or at least in the Central Division. So I don't think they're going to finish 6th, but time will tell. Another team that I think will finish near the top is the North Bay Battalion, but the channel vote has them in 5th. Now, remember, North Bay, they squeaked into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference last year after finishing ahead of the Ottawa 67s in that race for the final playoff spot. I think North Bay, with the goaltending, the returning defensive core, and this young talent up front, North Bay is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Could they finish 5th? Maybe, but I think they're going to be challenging for home ice advantage. So I think maybe for my list, I'd have North Bay a little bit higher, but the channel vote having the Battalion sitting fifth. Fourth in the Eastern Conference, the Kingston Frontenacs. The channel pretty high on the fronts going into the 25-26 season. They've had some players graduate. They've got some younger talent coming up. I think for the Frontenacs, this is a team looking to the future. Maybe not necessarily this upcoming season, but for fans of the Frontenacs who voted here on the channel, or just people who have a lot of optimism and faith in the program with the Frontenacs, they think they're going to be a home ice team in the playoffs once again, which I think for fans of the Frontenacs, they would take that pretty willingly, potentially finishing fourth at the end of the 25-26 season. This one really surprised me, making the top three according to the channel vote, the Oshawa Generals. Now, Oshawa has had a lot of players graduate after going to back-to-back OHL championships where they fell short against London. There's also the future of Beckett Seneca. Does he come back from the Ducks? Danford, his name's been in a lot of trade rumors. Of course, Jacob Oster's graduated, so the goaltending is going to look different. I don't think Oshawa finishes this high in the standings for the Eastern Conference. I like the optimism with Generals fans. Maybe it's a recency bias that they expect them to finish top half of the Eastern Conference standings. I don't think it's going to happen, although we haven't played a game in the regular season yet, so time will tell. Although the preseason, it's been a bit of a struggle for Oshawa out on the ice. So time will tell on this prediction if the channel vote was correct on saying Oshawa will be one of the top three teams in the Eastern Conference. Finishing second, according to the channel vote, the Barrie Colts. And for the Colts, the offense is the question mark because we know they've got some good goaltending with Ben Hrebeck, the defensive core that's coming back. It's who's going to score the goals. But the channel, pretty optimistic that the Barrie Colts will finish first in the Central Division. I have Barrie finishing number one in the Central as well, but it's going to be very close. I feel as though Niagara and North Bay right there with the Barrie Colts for this season, depending on how the trades all play out. Do the Colts become buyers this season, or do they become sellers after what we saw with Riley Patterson being traded? So time will tell, but to the channel right now, picking the Barrie Colts to finish second in the Eastern Conference. Now, the team with the most first place votes out of the Eastern Conference, that would be the Brantford Bulldogs. And this team, there's so much hype around them. Bringing in Sam McHugh as soon as the trade freeze was lifted in June. Ryder Bolton also being brought in. This team, they have a lot of offense up front. I think the Brantford Bulldogs are for real, and they're not done adding. They've got a great draft cupboard that they could add a few more players. There's already speculation that they're in on a few players from the Oshawa Generals organization that could come their way. So look out for the Brantford Bulldogs, and I think the channel also jumping on the bandwagon of the Brantford Bulldogs being a top team in the Eastern Conference. Now, looking at the overall, Kitchener had the highest votes for top three, followed by Windsor and then Brantford. So for the overall standings, if you look at the voting numbers on the channel, Kitchener, Windsor, Brantford will be your top three. But we still have a couple weeks to go until the start of the regular season. I thought this was a fun little preview as to how the channel vote, just looking at the standings. I want to thank everyone who took part in the votes, and cannot wait to get the season underway. As now we've got no preseason games until Friday, so the Ontario Hockey League being a little quiet this week. We'll see if there's any sort of movement or whatnot. If there's any trades or signings or anything significant, I will do a video here on the channel. So again, thank you very much for your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.